This recipe is my favourite Christmas centerpiece that will certainly wow your guests. It's also just a really nice recipe to enjoy all year round. Here's the ingredients and equipment used to make the Wellington. It may seem like a lot of ingredients, but the rich, decadent flavour is totally worth going the extra mile. The first step is to cook our beetroot. I'm using fresh beetroot with the tail and stalk intact to ensure as much of the lovely colour pigment is preserved for our mock beef. We will pressure cook the beetroot for 12 minutes, releasing the pressure as soon as the time is up. Alternatively, you could steam for roughly 30 minutes, depending on the size of the beetroot. Carefully remove from the pressure cooker, then bring to the sink to de-skin. It is easier to remove the skin whilst hot, so make sure to use gloves so you don't burn yourself. Massage the beetroot to remove all bits of skin as the blood of your enemies spatters into the sink. Minimally rinse any remaining bits, again to preserve as much of the colour pigment as possible. When done, chuck your gloves down in frustration as you realise you recorded the next bit in slow motion by accident.
What was that?
Is there someone there?
Store the sliced beetroot in an airtight container. Next, we will move on to making the mushroom Duxelle. So we're going to wash our 350 grams of raw mushrooms. You could start this process while the beetroot is cooking. I'm going to use a food processor to chop up the mushrooms for speed, but you could always just use a knife. The goal is to mince our mushrooms to produce the richest flavour. Next, we're going to finely dice our onion. Chop it in half and then follow the cuts I'm making to ensure a nice fine dice. The sharper your knife, the easier this will be. Rinse your tears and repeat with the other half of the onion. Then move on to the garlic. I find gently smashing them with a knife the easiest way to remove the outer skin of garlic. Repeat the same process with the garlic as you did with the onion to finely mince. Or just use a garlic mincing tool, whatever does the trick. Now the veg is prepped, we're going to bring everything together in a pan. I prefer to water saute my vegetables, and we'll be adding margarine during this process anyway. Add the mushroom and onion, a pinch of black pepper, and the half teaspoon of salt. Then leave this to simmer until most of the water has been cooked off. Kind of like how it looks now. Add the 2 tablespoons of margarine, 1 to 2 teaspoons of balsamic vinegar, half a tablespoon of parsley, half a tablespoon of thyme, minced garlic, then mix to combine and cook until you can't see any more water simmering. Add this to an airtight tub, seal and leave to cool before chilling in the refrigerator. We're nearly ready to make the beef seitan. First we will need to drain and rinse our tinned kidney beans. Now to bring together the wet mix. I'm going to make my wet mix in a bowl, then use a hand blender to save on washing up and to ensure all of the beetroot and beans are fully blended. After adding the 160 grams of beetroot and 80 grams of kidney beans, add the 150 ml of water and 1 teaspoon of veg stock. Next is 4 tablespoons of mushroom powder, 20 ml of soy sauce, 1 tablespoon of vegetable oil, 1.5 teaspoons of salt, 2 teaspoons of black pepper, 1 heaped tablespoon of onion powder, 1 heaped teaspoon of garlic powder, 1 teaspoon of mustard powder, 2 teaspoons of yeast extract, 2.5 teaspoons of blackstrap molasses. Very messy. Let's quickly clean that up. Then 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar. Then finally a generous pinch of ground clove, smoked paprika, ground nutmeg and white pepper. Loosely mix everything together, then suddenly just decide to transfer everything to a jug and blend until smooth. Transfer the wet mix to your food processor, then add the 240 grams of vital wheat gluten. Pulse the mixture to bring it together until combined, like so. I'm using a food processor that can handle the full dough. I'd suggest quartering your dough and processing each quarter in 1-minute bursts until it looks like the final outcome you'll see in a minute. I'm stopping every 2.5 minutes to show you the stages the dough goes through. If unsure, I demonstrate how to process in 1-minute bursts with a small processor in my ultimate shredded seitan chicken video from around 3 minutes and 53 seconds. I'll link that in the top corner of this video now. You want your final dough to look and feel like so. Soft, pliable and quite warm to the touch. Squeeze your finished dough thoroughly to remove any air pockets. Then place in an airtight container at room temperature for an hour to rest. Once rested, we're going to wangle, stretch, twist and contort the dough twice as shown. This will produce a dense dough with intertwined fibres that pull apart with the fork like beef, giving a very meaty bite. Shape roughly into a log and wrap tightly in parchment as shown. Wrap again in a sheet of foil, allowing a bit of give for the seitan to expand as it cooks. Flatten down each side, then start to fold the ends of the foil in as shown. We'll be wrapping this in another sheet of foil, so try to avoid leaving any sharp edges that could pierce the second layer. The aim here is to create an airtight environment so the dough conforms. Make sure to leave a 1-finger gap on each side as shown to avoid the package bursting. Then repeat on the other side. Then do the exact same thing again with the second sheet of foil. Add 2 cups of water to your pressure cooker. Make sure the edge of the foil shown is facing down to avoid any water collecting between the layers. And don't worry if you need to fold the pinched ends in so the package fits. Now it's time to get our seitan cooking. How long are we going to pressure cook this for?
For a good hour and a half. Check that! A great hour and a half.
An hour and a half?
Yes, an hour and a half on high pressure. Allow a natural pressure release for 15 minutes after it finishes, then carefully remove the piping hot package. Leave it on a rack to cool, then place in the refrigerator overnight or until you're ready to make the Wellington. You can get away with leaving the seitan and the mushroom duxelle in the fridge for up to 5 days, as long as you're planning on cooking and eating the finished Wellington by the 7th day. We are finally ready to turn your hard work into a beautiful Wellington. I recommend leaving your puff pastry out of the refrigerator for 20 minutes beforehand, as it's easier to work with. Spoon the mixture out evenly either side of the seitan. I like to use the seitan as a guide for how far to spread out the mushroom duxelle. Then remove it and fill in the gap like so. Place the seitan at the front and carefully wrap in the pastry, with the aim of having an even layer of the duxelle around the entirety of the log. Slice away any excess pastry and trim the excess parchment, then leave to one side intact. Tidy and tuck the pastry around the log, then we're going to use soy milk to help join and seal the underside as shown. Pinch and smush the pastry together along the entirety of the sheet as best you can, then carefully flip it over. Now, for the next part, try to bring together and pinch each of the ends and press in gently. It may not be necessary, but I like to cut out rectangles using the excess pastry to seal the ends shut. It just keeps things neat, tidy and secure when in the oven. Brush the Wellington and the pastry rectangle with soy milk and then gently apply to totally cover the pinched area. Use your fingers to blend the added pastry in until smooth. Then repeat this step on the other side. I don't claim to be an expert at this part of the process at all, yet it always seems to come out just fine, so don't worry about any imperfections. It's a fiddly process. Take a knife and create even scores in the top of the Wellington like so. Then if you want to go the extra mile in your presentation, carve out a leaf shape with the excess puff pastry. Brush with soy milk, then gently press onto the top of the Wellington. Give the Wellington one final brush all over with the soy milk. Then optionally sprinkle flakes of salt on top. Very carefully place the Wellington onto a pre-greased baking tray lined with parchment, then we're ready to pop this Wellington into the oven. Cook at 180 degrees Celsius in a fan oven for 50 minutes, or until the internal temperature has reached above 70 degrees. It may need an extra 10 minutes depending on your oven. And there you have it, a beautifully cooked vegan beef Wellington with mushroom Duxelle. It may be a lengthy recipe, but I promise no one will be disappointed. Now it's time to slice it open and see the final product. As you can see, our processing technique has produced amazing meaty fibres that pull apart just like meat. All that's left now is to slice it up and serve. If you enjoyed this recipe video and find it useful, please consider liking and subscribing to help me reach my goal of 5,000 subscribers. Until next time.